The stars trembled as massive ships moved through the darkness of space like giant metal beasts hunting their prey. These were not ordinary ships built by hammers and welders. These were the biovessels of the Vorthok Empire grown from living metal and powered by beating hearts that pumped energy instead of blood. Captain Hyenwu stood on the bridge of his ship, watching through the viewing screen as another world burned below them. The planet Cathora had been beautiful once, with purple oceans and silver cities that sparkled like jewels. Now smoke rose from those cities, and the purple oceans reflected the orange glow of defeat. "The Cathari have surrendered," said Lieutenant Minesio, her voice flat and emotionless. She spoke the words like a doctor announcing the time of death. "Their military leaders are requesting mercy for their civilians." Hyenwu nodded but did not smile. There was no joy in conquest anymore, only duty. For 300 years, the Vorthok Empire had swept across this part of the galaxy like a great wave, swallowing up world after world. Each planet fell the same way. First came the ultimatum, then came the brief, hopeless resistance. Finally, came the surrender. The Cathari had lasted longer than most. They had fought for 6 months using energy weapons and quantum shields. They had been clever, brave, and desperate. It had not mattered. The Vorthok bioships could adapt to any weapon, heal from any damage, and think faster than any organic brain. The Cathari never had a real chance. "Set course for the next target," Hyenwu ordered. "Our scouts have found another system. The third planet shows signs of intelligent life." Commander Jae-soon stepped forward, holding a data tablet that glowed with information about their next conquest. "The inhabitants call their world Earth. They are still in the early stages of space travel. Their fastest ships use chemical rockets. Their weapons are based on gunpowder and metal projectiles." Several officers on the bridge made sounds of amusement. Chemical rockets were what children played with. Gunpowder weapons were museum pieces. These humans would be conquered in days, perhaps hours. "Interesting," said Hyenwu, though his tone suggested he found it anything but interesting. "How many humans are there?" "Approximately 8 billion, Jae-soon replied. "They are divided into nearly 200 separate governments. They spend much of their time fighting each other over resources and territory." This brought more laughter. From the bridge crew, a divided species was a weak species. The Vorthok had learned this lesson from 1,000 conquered worlds. Unity was strength. Division was death. Far across the galaxy, in a small solar system that most star maps did not even bother to label, Dr. Minho was having the worst day of his life. He sat in the monitoring station of Deep Space Observatory Prometheus, staring at sensor readings that made no sense. The instruments were detecting massive objects moving through space at impossible speeds. At first, he thought the equipment was broken. The readings showed ships that were kilometers long, made of materials that seemed to be part metal and part something else. Something alive. The energy signatures were unlike anything in Earth's databases. Minho ran the scans 3 more times. Each time, the results were the same. A fleet of alien ships was heading toward Earth, based on their current speed and trajectory. They would arrive in 18 months. His hands shook as he reached for the emergency communication array. For 30 years, he had dreamed of this moment. First contact with an alien civilization. It was supposed to be humanity's greatest achievement, the dawn of a new age. Instead, it felt like watching a storm approach that would wash away everything he had ever known. "Deep Space Station Prometheus to Earth Command," he said into the microphone, surprised by how steady his voice sounded. "Priority Alpha transmission. We have contact. Pete, we have contact with unknown vessels approaching the solar system." The response came back within minutes. "Prometheus, this is Earth Command. Confirm your transmission. Are you reporting extraterrestrial contact?" "Confirmed," Minho replied. "Multiple large vessels, unknown design, approaching from the direction of the Vega system. Estimated time of arrival is 18 months. There was a long pause. Then Prometheus, maintain constant monitoring. Do not transmit toward the approaching vessels. Earth Command is declaring Code 7 protocols as of this moment." Minho knew what Code 7 meant. It was the emergency plan that nobody thought would ever be used. The plan for what to do if hostile aliens came to Earth. As he watched the distant blips on his screen grow slowly larger, he wondered if 18 months would be enough time to prepare for what was coming. On the bridge of the Vorthok flagship, Captain Hyenwu studied the preliminary reports about Earth. The humans seemed typical of species at their level of development. Aggressive, divided, completely unprepared for what the Empire would bring to their little blue world. He had no way of knowing that he was about to encounter something that Vorthok Empire had never faced before. Something that would change everything they thought they knew about conquest, about war, and about the strange, stubborn species that called themselves human. Admiral Jinnis stood at the center of her command ship as it glided into the Solar, the system that contained Earth. The biovessel moved silently through space, living whole, breathing slowly like a sleeping giant. Around her, dozens of officers monitored screens that showed everything about this primitive world and its inhabitants. "Analysis complete," reported Commander Taman, looking up from his station. "The humans are even more backward than our initial reports suggested. They still burn dead plants and animals for energy. Their military uses metal bullets fired from tubes. Some of their people do not even have access to electric power." Gine nodded, though she felt a strange unease. In her 50 years of service, she had conquered 37 worlds. Each conquest followed the same pattern. The Vorthok arrived, demonstrated their superior technology, offered terms of surrender, and the local species submitted. It was efficient, predictable, and final. "Prepare the standard first contact protocol," she ordered. "Full spectrum broadcast to all communication devices on the planet. Let them see what they are dealing with." The transmission array activated, sending Janae's image to every television, radio, computer, and phone on Earth. Her words were automatically translated into hundreds of human languages by the ship's biocomputers. "People of Earth," she began, her voice calm and authoritative. "I am Admiral Ginai of the Vorthok Empire. Your world has been selected for integration into our domain. You will surrender all military assets and prepare for administrative transition. Compliance will ensure the survival of your species. Resistance will bring only suffering." On Earth, President Dongwu sat in an emergency meeting room deep beneath the capital city. Around the table were the leaders of every major nation, their faces grim as they watched the alien admiral deliver humanity's death sentence. "She makes it sound like a business transaction," said General Haijin, commander of the global defense forces that had been hastily assembled over the past year. "Surrender or die. Those are our choices." Dr. Saw Young, Earth's leading expert on the aliens, studied the transmission data on her tablet. "Their technology is impressive, but I am seeing some interesting patterns. Look at how their ship moves. It is not using traditional engines. The whole appears to be organic, possibly grown rather than built." "What does that mean for us?" asked President Dongwu. "It means they think differently than we do," Soyoung replied. "Their ships are alive. Their weapons are biological. Their computers might be too. This could be important." President Dongwu stood up and walked to the communication console. Every eye in the room followed him. What he said next would determine the fate of every human being alive. "Open a channel to the alien fleet," he ordered. The technician looked. "Nervous, sir? Are you sure?" "Once we respond, there is no going back. Open the channel." Moments later, President Dongwu's face appeared on the screens of the Vorthok command ship. Guinea was surprised. In her experience, primitive species usually took days or weeks to respond to first contact. These humans had answered in less than an hour. "I am Dongwu, elected leader of the human species," he said, his voice steady, despite the magnitude of the moment. "We have received your ultimatum. Our answer is no. Humanity will not surrender. We will not submit. If you want our world, you will have to take it." Guinea stared at the screen in genuine shock. Never in the history of the Vorthok Empire had a species simply refused the surrender demand. There was always negotiation, pleading, or desperate attempts to bargain. Never a flat refusal. "Commander Taman," she said slowly, "run a full psychological analysis of this transmission." I want to understand what we are dealing with. Already running, Admiral Taman replied, but his expression was troubled. The biocomputers are having difficulty processing human emotional patterns. Their response does not match any known psychological profile for a species facing extinction. On Earth, the rejection of the alien ultimatum triggered the largest mobilization in human history. Every nation put aside old grudges and ancient feuds. Factories that had made cars began making weapons. Scientists who had studied medicine began studying alien technology. Children who had never heard of war began learning how to hide from alien ships. Dr. Saw-Young worked 18 hours a day in her laboratory, analyzing every piece of data they had collected about the Vorthok. Their ships are beautiful, she told her assistant Minji, but beauty can be a weakness. Living things can get sick. Biological systems can be disrupted. What are you thinking? Minji asked. I am thinking that these aliens have spent so long conquering primitive worlds that they have forgotten how to fight someone who fights back, So-Young replied. They expect us to be afraid. They expect us to give up. They do not understand that humans become more dangerous when we are cornered. Back on the Vorthok flagship, Admiral Guinea studied the intelligence reports coming from Earth. The humans were not behaving according to any known pattern. Instead of fragmenting under pressure, they were uniting. Instead of surrendering, they were preparing for war. Instead of begging for mercy, they were sharpening their knives. Admiral, said Commander Tommen, perhaps we should request additional ships from the Empire. These humans are unusual. Janae considered the suggestion, then shook her head. No, we are the Vorthok Empire. We do not need reinforcements to conquer a world that still uses gunpowder. Begin combat preparations. If these humans want a war, we will give them one they will never forget. She had no way of knowing that she had just made the biggest mistake in Vorthok history. Captain Junho gripped the control stick of his ship as it shook and rattled through space. The Iron Mountain had been a mining vessel just 6 months ago, designed to crack open asteroids and extract precious metals. Now it was humanity's secret weapon, packed with enough nuclear devices to light up half the solar system. Engineering report, Junho called out over the noise of the overworked engines. We are holding together, Captain, replied Engineer Sung-ho from the back of the cramped bridge. But these old mining ships were not built for combat maneuvers. If we push much harder, something important is going to break. Around them, 50 other converted vessels struggled to keep formation. There were cargo haulers that had been carrying food supplies last year, passenger ships that had taken families on vacation to the moon colonies, even a luxury cruise liner that still had a swimming pool and a dance floor now filled with weapons and ammunition. Remember the plan, Junho announced over the communication system that connected all the human ships. We are not trying to destroy their vessels. We're trying to blind them, hit them with everything we have, then get out before they can respond. The plan had been Dr. So-Young's idea. After months of studying captured alien technology, she had discovered something incredible. The Vorthok bioships were more advanced than anything humans had ever built, but they had one critical weakness. Their organic computers and living metal hulls were extremely sensitive to electromagnetic radiation. It is like having the most sophisticated brain in the galaxy, she had explained to the military commanders, but giving it the worst headache imaginable. Nuclear weapons created massive electromagnetic pulses when they exploded. The radiation would not destroy the alien ships, but it would scramble their biocomputers and leave them helpless for precious minutes. Minutes that humanity desperately needed. Admiral Janae watched the approaching human fleet from the bridge of her flagship and felt nothing but contempt. The human ships were crude, slow, and obviously converted from civilian purposes. Their formations were sloppy. Their communications were unencrypted and easy to intercept. They were flying straight into the teeth of the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Prepare biocannons, she ordered. Target the largest human vessels first. We'll make this quick and merciful. Commander Taman studied his tactical display with a frown. Admiral, the humans are not targeting our weapons or our engines. Their approach vectors suggest they plan to detonate their nuclear devices in close proximity to our ships, but not actually impact us. Suicide attack? Janae asked. Possibly, but the positioning is wrong for maximum damage. It is almost as if they want to explode near us, rather than on us. Genei dismissed the observation with a wave. Desperation makes even intelligent species do foolish things. Continue attack preparations. The first human ship reached the outer edge of the Vorthok formation and detonated its nuclear payload. The explosion was brilliant white, visible across the entire solar system. But instead of trying to destroy the alien vessel next to it, the nuclear device had been specially modified to produce the largest electromagnetic pulse possible. Instantly, the biocomputers on 3 Vorthok ships went dark. Their living hulls stopped responding to neural commands. Their weapons powered down. For the first time in centuries, Vorthok vessels drifted helplessly through space. What just happened? Genei demanded, but her own ship was shaking as its biosystems rebooted frantically. Before anyone could answer, 6 more human ships reached the Vorthok formation and detonated their payloads. Each explosion sent waves of electromagnetic energy through the alien fleet. Ships that had conquered worlds found themselves blind and defenseless. Engineer Yuna piloted her converted cargo hauler straight toward the largest Vorthok vessel she could find. Her ship had been carrying grain to Mars colonies just last year. It carried humanity's hope in the form of a dozen modified nuclear warheads. "This is for everyone who will never see home again," she whispered, and pressed the detonation button. The electromagnetic pulse washed over Admiral Genei's flagship like an invisible tsunami. Every biosystem on the ship screamed in electronic agony before going silent. The lights went out. The artificial gravity failed. Emergency systems that had never been needed suddenly became the only things keeping the crew alive. Damage report. Genei shouted in the darkness. "Biocomputers are offline," came Taemin's voice from somewhere in the black. "Neural links are severed. We are operating on emergency power only. Admiral, we are helpless." Captain Junho watched as 30 Vorthok ships drifted without power or control. The human plan had worked better than anyone had dared hope. But he knew this was only the beginning. The electromagnetic effects would fade within hours, and when they did, the aliens would be very, very angry. "All ships begin withdrawal," he ordered. "Phase 1 is complete. Time to see if Phase 2 works," as the surviving human vessels limped away from the battle zone. Admiral Ginna sat in her darkened command center and felt something she had not experienced in decades. Fear. Not fear of death, but fear of the unknown. These humans had done something impossible. They had hurt the Vorthok Empire. "Get me a full analysis of what just happened," she ordered, when the emergency systems finally restored minimal power. "I want to know how they did this," Admiral said Commander Taemin quietly. "I think we may have underestimated these humans." For the first time since arriving at Earth, Genei began to wonder if conquest would be as easy as they had believed. These humans were different. They fought like no species the Empire had ever encountered. They were unpredictable, resourceful, and absolutely refusing to give up. The war for Earth had truly begun. Lieutenant Yujin pushed her fighter through the asteroid belt, weaving between floating rocks the size of buildings. Her ship was small and fast, built from spare parts and determination. Behind her, 2 Vorthok patrol vessels gave chase. There, biohulls pulsing with angry red light. "Come on, you alien monsters," she whispered, pulling her fighter into a sharp turn around a massive asteroid. "Let me show you how humans play hide-and-seek." The Vorthok ships were faster and more powerful, but they were built for open space combat. In the crowded asteroid field, their size worked against them. Yujan's tiny. The fighter could slip through gaps that would tear apart larger vessels. She waited until the first alien ship committed to following her. Through a narrow canyon between 2 spinning rocks, then triggered the surprise she had left behind. The mining charges exploded in sequence, bringing down thousands of tons of rock on the pursuing vessel. "Target down," she reported to base. "1 alien ship crushed. The second one is backing off." Her wingman, Pilot Sungmin, joined her on the other side of the asteroid field. "Nice work." "That makes 12 Vorthok ships we have taken out this week." "12 ships?" Yujin replied. "But they have hundreds more. We need to do better." Back. On the Vorthok flagship, Captain Hyenwoo studied the tactical reports with growing frustration. The humans had changed their strategy completely after the electromagnetic pulse attack. Instead of meeting the Vorthok fleet in open battle, they had scattered into small groups that struck without warning and disappeared before retaliation was possible. "They are like insects," he complained to Admiral Ginny. "We destroy 10 of their ships and 20 more appear from nowhere. They attack our patrol vessels, our supply lines, our communication relays. It is impossible to predict where they will strike next." Ginny nodded grimly. "Their tactics make no sense according to standard military doctrine. They sacrifice strategic positions for minor tactical advantages. They attack when retreat would be logical. They defend locations that have no military value." "Perhaps," suggested Commander Taman, "logic is not their primary consideration." The Admiral turned to stare at him. "Explain." "Every species we have conquered fought to preserve their military forces. They retreated when facing superior firepower. They negotiated when facing certain defeat. The humans do none of these things. They seem to fight for reasons that have nothing to do with winning or losing." On Earth, Dr. Soyoung worked in her laboratory around the clock, studying pieces of Vorthok biotechnology that had been recovered from destroyed alien ships. The living metal was unlike anything in human science. It could repair itself, adapt to new threats, and even learn from previous encounters. "It is beautiful and terrifying," she told her assistant Minji. "Their entire civilization is built around the integration of biological and technological systems. Their ships are alive. Their weapons are alive. Even their computers are alive." "That good or bad for us?" Minji asked. "Both," Soyoung replied, holding up a sample of the alien metal. "Living systems are incredibly adaptable, but they also have weaknesses that purely mechanical systems do not. They can get sick, they can be poisoned, they can be infected." She turned to her computer and began typing rapidly. "I have been thinking about this for months. What if we could create a virus that attacks their biotechnology? Not a computer virus, but an actual biological virus that treats their living machines like host organisms." Minji's eyes widened. "That sounds incredibly dangerous. What if it affects human biology too?" "And we make sure it does not," Soyoung said firmly. "We have one advantage the Vorthok do not expect. We are willing to risk everything to protect our freedom. They are fighting to expand their empire. We are fighting for our survival." Meanwhile, across the solar system, the war continued to escalate. Human mining colonies became forward military bases. Civilian cargo ships were converted into warships. Even children learned to operate weapons and communication equipment. The Vorthok responded by bringing in reinforcements from their nearest base. But the additional ships only gave the humans more targets. Fighter squadrons led by pilots like Yujin struck at the larger vessels, while converted freighters loaded with nuclear weapons targeted the alien supply lines. Captain Junho, promoted to admiral after his success in the first battle, coordinated the defense from a command center built inside a hollowed-out asteroid. "The key is to never let them get comfortable," he explained to his staff. "Every time they adapt to our tactics, we change our tactics. Every time they think they understand us, we do something completely different." General Hajin, visiting from Earth, studied the tactical displays with admiration. "You have turned guerrilla warfare into an art form. But can we keep this up? We are losing ships and personnel every day." "We can keep it up as long as we have to," Junho replied. "The question is whether Dr. Soyoung can finish her project before we run out of ships to throw at them." Back on the Vorthok flagship, Admiral, Ginny received a communication from the Empire's High Command. The message was brief and direct. "Conclude the Earth's operation immediately. Other sectors require reinforcement." She stared at the message in disbelief. For the first time in her career, the Empire was questioning her ability to complete a conquest. The humans had done something that no other species had accomplished. They had made the Vorthok Empire doubt itself. "Admiral," said Commander Taman, "we have detected unusual energy signatures from the human planet. They appear to be preparing something new." Janae felt a chill run down her spine. After months of fighting these unpredictable humans, she had learned to fear their innovations. Whatever they were planning next would be unlike anything the Vorthok had faced before. Dr. So-young stood in her laboratory, holding a small vial of liquid that looked like ordinary water. Of working with captured Vorthok biotechnology, she had finally created something that might save humanity. The virus inside the vial was designed to attack the living computers that controlled every alien ship. "Are you certain this will work?" asked President Dongwu, who had come to see the weapon that could end the war. "Nothing is certain in war," So-young replied, "but our tests show that this virus treats Vorthok biotechnology like a host organism. It will spread through their neural networks and shut down their systems from the inside." General Haijin studied the vial with concern. "How do we deliver it to their ships? They will not let us get close enough to inject it directly." So-young smiled for the first time in months. "We do not need to get close. We'll let them come to us." Admiral Janae stood on the bridge of her flagship as the entire Vorthok fleet moved toward Earth for the final assault. The humans had been troublesome, but the Empire's patience was at an end. High Command had ordered her to finish the conquest within 1 week or face replacement. "All bioships report ready for planetary bombardment," announced Commander Taemin. "Once we destroy their military installations, the humans will have no choice but to surrender." "Begin the attack," Janae ordered. "Target their space stations first, then their major cities. Make it quick and decisive." But as the Vorthok fleet approached Earth, they found the humans waiting for them. Not hiding in asteroid fields or launching hit-and-run attacks, but formed up in traditional battle formation like civilized warriors, Captain Junho commanded. The human fleet from his converted mining ship, around him were hundreds of vessels. From military destroyers to civilian cargo haulers, every ship that humanity could put into space was here for the final battle. Remember, he broadcast to all human ships, "We are not trying to win a traditional space battle. We are trying to get close enough to deliver our payload. Every ship that reaches the alien formation is a victory."
Ow.
The battle began with the Vorthok. Biocannons firing massive energy bolts that could vaporize a human ship in seconds. But for every vessel they destroyed, 2 more took its place. The humans flew their ships like they were piloting fighter planes. Weaving through the alien fire with desperate courage, Lieutenant Yujin guided her fighter through the chaos. Carrying a special cargo pod loaded with So-young's virus, her mission was simple: get close enough to a Vorthok ship to release the biological weapon. Her chances of survival were almost 0. "This is for Earth," she whispered, and pushed her engines to maximum power. The first virus payload detonated against the hull of a Vorthok bioship, releasing millions of microscopic organisms into the alien vessel's living systems. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then the ship's lights began to flicker. Admiral Janae felt the change immediately. The neural link that connected her to her ship's biocomputer started to fade. Around her, crew members reported system failures throughout the fleet. "What is happening?" she demanded. "The humans have released some kind of biological agent," Taemin replied, his voice tight with panic. "It is spreading through our biosystems like a plague. Our ships are dying." One by one, the mighty Vorthok vessels began to go dark. Their living hulls stopped responding to commands. Their biocomputers crashed as the virus spread through their neural networks. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds drifted helplessly as their biological systems failed. "Captain." Junho watched in amazement as the alien fleet began to collapse. "All ships continue the attack. Do not let any of them escape." But Admiral Janae was already preparing for retreat. With most of her biosystems offline, she had to rely on emergency mechanical backups that the Vorthok rarely used. Her flagship limped away from Earth, followed by the few vessels that still had partial power. "Send a message to High Command," she ordered. "Full retreat. Classification: Priority Alpha. Species designation: Human. Threat level: Critical." Commander Taemin looked up from his manual controls. "What should I tell them about the humans?" Guinea stared at the blue planet that had defeated the mighty Vorthok Empire. "Tell them the truth. The humans do not fight like any species we have encountered. They do not follow logical military doctrine. They adapt faster than we can counter their strategies. They refused to accept defeat even when facing impossible odds. She paused, remembering the months of brutal combat that had brought her proud fleet to ruin. Tell them that humans are not like the others. They do not break when pressured. They do not surrender when threatened. They learn from every defeat and come back stronger. As the surviving Vorthok ships disappeared into hyperspace, Dr. So-young stood on the observation deck of Earth's primary space station. Around the planet, the debris of the great battles slowly drifted through space. Humanity had won, but the cost had been enormous. President Dongwu joined her at the viewing window. What happens now? Will they come back? I do not think so, So-young replied. We have shown them that conquering Earth is not worth the cost. But more importantly, we have shown the rest of the galaxy that the Vorthok Empire can be beaten. Across the galaxy, other alien species intercepted the Vorthok retreat message. For the first time in centuries, a species had not only resisted the Empire, but had sent them fleeing in defeat. The news spread from world to world. Humanity had arrived. And nothing would ever be the same. On Earth, the celebrations would continue. For weeks. But in the quiet moments between victory parades, humanity began to prepare for its next great challenge, taking its place among the stars as a power that no one would dare underestimate again.